keeping you connected. This is KSPR News at 4.
Happening now, deputies in Arkansas are trying to find a gunman who they say may be dangerous.
They are looking for this man, John Jeancourt. The Marion County Sheriff says he shot his own wife and has been on the run since for more than 24 hours now. Deputies found the truck he was in right here near the city of Peel, Arkansas, but they still have not found Jeancourt. KSPR's Sheena Elzy shows you what officers are doing to try and find him.
Deputies have gone from here to several different areas across the county, and they're still looking for that shooter who they believe is still armed.
It's a pretty major deal when somebody receives injuries from a gun.
And the sheriff is ready to put this man in jail for it. Officers say John Jeancourt put 4 bullets in a car, then one in his own wife, and took off yesterday. The sheriff says he may have been drinking and could still be dangerous.
We don't know what his demeanor is now. How volatile he is. So, with that not being known, that would definitely be a reason to try to make contact with him as soon as possible.
So we went along with as they searched for a second time today. The first place they looked, this area on Bull Shoals Lake.
The guys over here that work on the Peel Ferry here called us and said they saw the vehicle.
Officers say they found the truck he was in, but not the shooter.
We come down and he had abandoned it right down here above the lake.
He says they checked boats along the coastline and still no sign of him. So he says they went back to where they thought Jeancourt would go, to the wooded area near the house where he opened fire.
We've had friends and family members who, told us places that other properties that he might be at, and we've checked all those out.
And still nothing. But officers say they're not done. The sheriff says they have officers hidden on patrol in certain areas to try and find the shooter who got away.
We're going to keep after it until we do find him.
The sheriff says they also got a tip that the gunman may be in Springfield. That's about 2 hours away from here. So they're asking anyone in that area as well as right here to keep an eye out for the shooter. In Marion County, Arkansas, Sheena Elzy, KSPR News.
Sheena, thank you. The sheriff says the woman shot was hit in the arm and is expected to be okay. We've added this story to our KSPR Facebook page. Share it with your friends to help get word out to find this man.
Now, KSPR early warning weather.
A blustery day across the Ozarks. Cold temperatures and that wind at 20 miles an hour out of the north is making for just a cold, raw day out there. It's 34, but when we factor in that wind, it feels like 23 degrees, 22 Lake of the Ozarks, 15 in Rolla. We've also had some reports of a few snowflakes, some sleet there. There's a little system clipping us here to our north and just enough moisture there that, again, you may see a snowflake or two here this evening as temperatures stay very cold, but hang in there. We could see a 60-degree temperature swing soon. We'll let you know when the warmth arrives. Coming up, Lee.
Thanks, Kevin. Former Stone County Sheriff's jail employee has pleaded not guilty after being charged with a deadly hit and run. Sean Booley was arrested last week. He is now charged with leaving the scene of an accident and has been released on bond. The crash in Springfield happened last month on National near Cherry Street. Bradley Bizzle was killed after being hit by a car. Police say Booley was driving that car and took off.
New at 4, we now know what caused a plane to go down in Ozark, sending 2 people to the hospital. The plane hit the ground as it was approaching the Gimlin Airport. An NTSB report says the passenger told investigators that he thought the plane was flying too low, and as the plane passed over a tree line, the pilot pulled back on power instead of adding power. According to the report, the pilot says the last thing he remembered is, quote, something exploding in my face. The NTSB says the plane hit power lines before crashing.
A settlement is reached after a Columbia, Missouri firefighter died in a walkway collapse. It happened at a University of Missouri-run apartment complex in 2014. The wrongful death lawsuit was filed by Bruce Britt's widow and daughter. They say the university didn't take care of the apartments, which have since been torn down. Judge will still need to approve the settlement on Tuesday.
An Ozark school is closed this week because of the flu. About 400 students are in the Stoutland, Missouri district, and the school says about 100 of them, along with 17 staff members, are sick. A mass immunization clinic is in the works to help control the University of Missouri's mumps outbreak. More than 320 confirmed and probable cases have popped up at the Columbia, Missouri campus. A school spokesperson says the hope is that 2,000 students will get a free booster shot during the clinic planned next week. The state health agency is picking up the tab. Students are already required to get 2 doses of the vaccine, but are hoping a 3rd shot will offer more protection. New at 4, the safety and security of many in the Ozarks may be in jeopardy tonight, all because of a gauge that tells them when it's flooding. Gauges that Fort Leonard Wood stopped paying for. They are right here. All 4 of the gauges are on or next to Fort Wood. 2 are on the Rubidoux, 1 near Plato, the other near Waynesville. 2 others are on the Big Piney, 1 on the base, the other one near the East Gate. KSPR Stephanie Garland tells us why this can be such a problem.
I'm standing near Big Piney River just south of Fort Leonard Wood. Now this is one of the stream gauge buildings, and you can tell that right now it's locked. But usually people would come here to double check these levels.
But the flood gauges were taken out at Fort Leonard Wood. Well, that is a public safety hazard for the people in Waynesville.
The mayor of Waynesville is talking about the stream gauges, which help her and others decide when people need to evacuate in floods, like this one in 2013. Where a 23-year-old mother and her 4-year-old son died.
So it was a very heartbreaking experience for me as the mayor. There's 2 really sad times for me. 2013, and the other one is a year ago Christmas, when we lost our 5 soldiers, when the 5 soldiers were killed in the flooding.
She never wants this to happen again, and couldn't believe when Fort Leonard Wood stopped paying the United States Geological Survey for the 4 gauges without telling her or anyone with the city.
It was, well, it was just out of the blue. And nobody had talked to anybody about it.
USGS hydrologists say that it costs $14,600 just to operate year-long one of these stream gauges. In hopes of preventing this, the city of Waynesville is looking at paying for 2 of the gauges.
The city of Waynesville is, of course, interested primarily in the ones on the Rubidoux, because the Rubidoux Creek goes through the city of Waynesville.
And Fort Wood, which again cut off funding for all 4 gauges. In a statement says it will pay for the other 2 gauges. However, United States Geological Survey spokesman says right now there isn't a firm commitment by anyone, nor a set date for when these will again become funded.
Right now, these gauges, nobody's paying for them. Right now, they're, as we say, they're just out there running, but they're out there running with a very limited time span.
Mayor Luke Hardman hopes all parties can work together and figure this out soon, before a flood again hits her beloved city. So even though these stream gauges and many times are relatively easy to access on the side of the road, and USGS hydrologists say that what they do couldn't be more important in saving lives, if somebody doesn't start paying for this soon, the USGS will stop collecting the data, which again, they say helps save lives.
Thank you, Stephanie. City of Waynesville will hold a meeting in March to discuss funding. Meanwhile, the USGS will continue to collect data from those gauges. The National Weather Service uses those gauges to predict conditions. In a statement, the Springfield National Weather Service hydrologist says the National Weather Service river forecast and warning services will be severely degraded if the data from these gauges is no longer available.
The Pulaski County Sheriff's Department is looking for a couple of copper wire thieves. Take a look. The Sheriff's Department says these 2 people stole thousands of dollars worth of copper wire. It happened off Highway Z in St. Robert on January the 28th. We've added this story to our KSPR Facebook page. Go there, share this story to help get the word out.
Police are trying to figure out how a 2-year-old girl died. Gardner, Kansas police were called to a house yesterday afternoon. When they got there, they found the little girl unresponsive. She was taken to a hospital but died soon after. Cause of death has not yet been released.
Happening now, funding problems for the University of Missouri Medical Schools. This building, Springfield Clinical Campus, is a way to bring more doctors and nurses to Springfield. That goal may be in trouble. KSPR's Matt Berman is live there now to explain why funding will soon be an issue. Matt?
Well, Jerry, here at the Springfield Clinical Campus, budget cuts may impact schools like this in Missouri. Schools which work to train doctors and nurses, and not just in the classroom, but research and patient-centered care. Now, according to the current budget proposal from Governor Eric Greitens, the University of Missouri will see a cut of $4 million out of the $10 million appropriated. So statewide, schools like the clinical campus will likely be operating with less next fiscal year. But it's too early to tell what that cost will mean to Springfield. The MU Clinical Clinical Campus is a public-private partnership working with both Mercy and Cox Health Systems. Celeste Kramer is the Director of Recruitment and Retention with Cox Health and says there's a long-time shortage of doctors and nurses in the state.
We really have to think outside of the box when it comes to recruitment, and it's not just the standard post a job and people come. We try and grow talent locally, but then also recruit in the other areas in the state.
Now, the Associate Dean here at the Springfield Clinical Campus is concerned with tighter operating budgets and difficulty hiring faculty for the school if these cuts, in fact, go through. Jerry?
Matt Berman live in Springfield for us. Thanks, Matt. Cox Health is also looking to hire 90 people for both entry-level clinical positions and non-clinical positions. A hiring fair is taking place in 24 hours from 4 to 6 at Cox Health on South National.
A citizens group is calling on voters to oppose a school bond issue slated to be on the ballot April 4th. Springfield School Board is asking voters to approve the $189 million bond issue. It says the money is needed to make critical school improvements, but the Save R through 12 Schools Committee disagrees with how the money is being spent.
We are not in denial that some building conditions are unacceptable and need remediation. We believe that the wise and sustainable course of action is to repair, rehab, and renovate where necessary, but don't generally replace.
The school superintendent, John Youngman, sent us this response. It reads in part that the planning process that led to the bond issue, quote, involved thousands of Springfield community members, including SPS students, parents, and employees. Their input validated that quality schools are important to this community and that Springfield is willing to invest in its students, teachers, and schools.
A traffic alert for you today. This Central Springfield Road is now closed. It will not reopen for 2 months. We're talking about College Street, closed between New Avenue and 9th Avenue. Crews are installing utility stormwater lines, a new curb, gutters, and pavement along College Street.
College and university funding in Arkansas will now depend on how those schools are performing. Governor Asa Hutchinson signed the bill into law today. That means the state will need to adopt a performance-based model for funding higher education instead of doling out money based on enrollment. Hutchinson has said that he will call for increasing funding for higher education by $10 million if the plan was approved.
Springfield people are joining the fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline, but is it too late? Protesters gathered outside the U.S. Bank on East St. Louis today. The Army Corps of Engineers says it will soon green light completion of the more than $3 billion project. But opponents still worry the pipeline will harm the water supply. The White House is searching for a new communications director. It says it's trying to lighten the load on Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who's been handling both jobs so far. Sources say President Trump is disappointed with how Spicer has performed so far, and he was reportedly not amused by the spoof on SNL this past weekend, which featured Melissa McCarthy playing Spicer at a White House briefing.
Making news today, severe weather is ravaging much of the country with 9 reported tornadoes like this one hitting the Gulf Coast yesterday. And that's not all. Major rainfall on the West Coast is responsible for flash flooding and mudslides. ABC's Lana Zach explains what new threat is expected with yet another storm.
It's worse than Hurricane Katrina.
The devastation is extensive.
What didn't get damaged, the rain got a hold to it.
A reported 9 tornadoes sliced through the Gulf Coast Tuesday. Many of those rebuilding now have had to rebuild before.
After Katrina, we all came back. We all will pitch in.
10,000 people were left without power. The Red Cross and the National Guard are on the scene.
We're without power right now. So they told us to come over here and see what assistance that we can get from Red Cross or whatever to get cleaning supplies to clean up the debris that's in the neighborhood.
The tornadoes so random in their fury. Look at this house. Roof gone, bed intact.
Trying to save everything I can.
A new storm front pitting warm air against a cold snap is prompting more tornado warnings tonight. Elsewhere in the country, damage of a different sort. Flooding in the west leading to mudslides. A new storm threatens the entire Pacific coast. And on the other side of the country, a cold front so severe more than 50 cars smashed together in a major pileup on this road outside of Boston, with the worst of it yet to come.
And remarkably, there were no fatalities in those storms. But take a look at this. Central Park in February, a new record high of 62 degrees today. Tomorrow, they're expecting this spot will have between 6 inches to a full foot of snow. Lana Zach, ABC News, New York.
8 people were hurt in that pileup in Massachusetts, but all of them are expected to be okay. Going online for breast milk. Up next on KSPR News at 4, why more women are doing it, the health risks it poses to their infants, and the step you can take instead.
You might wish you were in Little Rock today, where the temperature is still 73 degrees. Got to shave off about 40 degrees to get where we're at 34. Wind chills in the 20s. Well, we're all green there on the drive home. Look out for that wind. You can see the flag blowing around there in the background. Temperatures in the mid-30s there. We'll talk about when we actually warm back up, though, coming up.